Welcome back to the series. All right, so this time I have made a small change here. As you can see, it's now we are getting categories, right? All the initial mumbo jumbo description is over. Now we're going to be moving at a blazing speed. So let's go check it out. So this is our backend for the page. This is where my new change is coming from, the categories. And the actual module that we're going to be working on is this, right? So, everything is exactly same as is, but right here, maybe I should increase it a little bit larger, maybe, or maybe not. Okay, so only thing changed here is this line. I just commented out the post getting. Instead, I just added categories.get, right? And I also disabled the display of it, right? Because this time we're no longer getting the posts. So display this display is no longer relevant. So first of all, what we need to do is first see that just by console logging it, what data comes in. According to that, we're going to go ahead and update our display, right? So let's focus here. Let's go back to the website and let's refresh. And there you go. We have our category data. This time, if you look close, taxonomy category. So these are no longer posts. They are all categories. See? So that means our title.rendered, our categories, etc. are no longer going to work. So we have to alter our display according to these guys, right? So let's get that done. All right, so as you can see now that I have changed our display settings accordingly. Now instead of posts, we're getting categories, and I removed those title.rendered categories, etc. Instead, I have now a different variable called cat, and now I have cat.name, cat.id, cat.taxonomy, and cat.slug, right? Just like we have them here. We have name, slug, taxonomy, right? So now if we refresh, there you go. That's our display. Let me show you a little bit larger here. That's how they're displaying. The slug is here, the category, the ID, and these are the names of our categories. And if we look at the back end, if you go to categories, and these are the exact same categories that's showing up. I mean, not the subcategories, just the main ones like app dev, app set timeout, etc. And that's exactly what we're getting. Now let's go see how we can get a single one by ID. All right, so everything is the same, and here we just changed this one, right? This one line, I commented out the other one, where we were getting all the categories, right? So here we're just adding categories.id, and we're giving it a specific ID 158.get, right? And where we got this ID from, let's go check it out. We got this from this guy right here, app web worker, right? 158. Okay, so now since we're going to be bringing one single piece of data, right? So we don't really want to have a display right now, because our display, we have to make major changes to the code. One single one is not going to map because it's not an array, right? It's going to fail. So we don't need that. What we need is just a console.log of that variable, fetch post, right? So let's just see what comes up. And remember, it's 158, and it's something called web worker. Let's refresh. All right, and we have our man. This is exactly the 158, app web worker, and app web worker. That's the single category with 158. So next, let's just look at users. All right, so I've made the changes here. I just added the users.get, and I disabled this because this is still category stuff. So first I need to look at the data, what that comes. Accordingly, we're gonna make the changes here, just like before. And do a refresh. As you can see, I have already made the page header change. And there you go. What we get is two of our users here. And right here, if we check the users, 3 users, but only 2 showing up. Reason being, as you can see, this user doesn't have any post attached to it, right? That's why that is not showing up. So let's just see if we can change one of the users and pick out this one, and changing the author to this user, and update. Let's go back and make sure. Okay, so now this user also have 1 post attached to it. Now let's go refresh again, and now we have 3. There you go, all 3 of them are here. All right, so now I can go ahead and, according to this data, make the changes to the view and see what comes up. All right, so I have made the necessary changes, the data changes according to the data we received from the REST API. As you can see here, we have roles, we have name, slug, and ID, right? And there's something interesting about this data point called roles, right? And this one actually comes in an array. Even if it's a single, it is still an array. So that means we cannot call that as roles, like a post.roles or user.roles, something like that. So what I ended up doing here, if you look, that I called the user.roles and did another map through that array, and then return them with a comma attached to it. And you will, all these will be visible when the result comes through. Also, another interesting fact about this is, by default, when you call this users.get, the roles are not included. This is not included. These 2 items, this roles, this is an extra data item that I had to add separately using PHP. I had to use this function in here, this filter, to get the extra role item added. Now let's get back. Now all our data items are here, and we're still bringing the users, and let's go see the results. There you go. All 3 users with their IDs and their roles nicely displayed. And at this point, I'm going to go to the singular view. So I'm just going to go ahead and disable this display, because we no longer need to loop through anything, because we're going to get single item. And I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this, disable that, and add .id. Let's say user ID number 3, right? Let's see what comes. User ID number 3 is this user. That would be this user. Let's refresh. And we have our user number 3 right here. And that concludes our users items. And next one, let's bring pages. Okay, so before I bring all the pages this time, I just wanted to show you something. Take a look at this page, and if we go quick edit, we see the slug is cart, right? So before we bring all of these pages, I'm going to show you one extra trick there. Let's go to the code, and remember this slug cart, right? So wp.pages.slug, and then we're going to provide a cart as a slug or any other slug and .get, right? And see if what that brings, right? So let's go and refresh. And since this is a single data, we have it disabled. So look at here. Go to the detail right here, cart. So using slug instead of an ID, definitely ID will bring it, but this is another way to bring page data. We can use the same technique to get, let's say, users or posts or anything else, right? All right, so according to this data, we have changed this display values. Only thing I made difference here is page.type, so that it actually tells you whether it's a post or a page. And this time I'm going to disable this and enable this guy so that we can bring in all the pages, basically 10 in this case, because REST API gives me by default 10 at a time. So let's refresh, and there it is, all our pages with slugs, IDs, and types. All the types are pages. Let me just make it bigger a little bit. Look at that. And next we're gonna get media from the media library. Okay, so as usual, I just changed this code right here, and this time we're getting media, wp.media.get, and this time I didn't wait. I just went ahead and change this data structure accordingly so that we can immediately view what we get. Also change this. Let's refresh. There you go. We get our media. So these are images. This is the title, and this is the, okay, and there should be an URL, source URL. This is the one. See, this is what I'm showing here, source URL. And let's go check in the back end. If we check media, and these are the two images we have. I'm gonna go ahead and disable this and enable this guy right here. Now, instead of the link displaying, we have the link in action, and if we click on it, we find the images, right? And that concludes our media journey. Next one is a very important one. It is called CPT, or custom post type. All right, so we are at the WordPress backend, and what I wanted to show you is this. This is our custom post type. See, up here it says post type flag, right? And we have some, entry data here. And this time though, just writing this is not enough. What we have to do, we have to do a little bit of groundwork here. Just add this extra line. Once we instantiate this and gives the default URL, it does map everything, but not the custom routes or custom post types or anything. To go get those extra routes, we have to have this extra line added to it. And you can name this anything you like. Just because my custom post type is named flag, so I just named it wp.flag. You can name it anything else. And this is our wp object.register route. And here we're gonna put the new route, whatever is afterwards, and make sure you don't put a slash in there because it's there by default, and comma/flag. Just to make sure, we can just go here instead of posts. If we just say flag, and this is our default route for our custom post type. And once this register route is set, now we can just normally call wp.flag, just like wp post, wp pages, etc., and .get. So once we do that, our code is ready. And here, I'm just gonna go ahead and enable this because I've already made the changes according to the CPT. and specifically I requested .type so that we know what type of post that is, right? So let's go and refresh, and there you go, all our custom post type data. And just for the heck of it, let's look at this ID 1209. So let's just disable this because it's going to be a single one. We don't need any loop through anything, and we can just do console log. So just we're going to get a single one by .id. This should work, right? Let's see. And we get an error. It says .id is not a function. That means this URL we created here, right? It is not complete for ID. It is not ready, right? So let's get that ready. Okay. So as you can see, I've made this slight change to this register route. I disabled the old one and added this regular expression to the end of this so that now it is ready for an ID, right? So let's grab that ID we were looking for, 1209, and put it in. I realized that I kept that empty before, but even then that should have returned an empty array, right? Not error, what we saw before. So this time 1209 and our register route is ready for an ID. So let's go and refresh, and there you go, like a good boy, the data is here, and the ID we were looking for is 1209. And that concludes this series on WP API. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button and the subscribe button. This will help me bring more free contents like this to you every week. Thanks again.